Today, we're diving into 8 signs that your mind might just work a little differently than most people's. You ever get that feeling, like people just don't get you? Where conversations feel draining and small talk seems completely, totally pointless? It's a feeling a lot of us know, but what if it's not just some random social quirk? Well, psychology actually has a really interesting take on this. It says this feeling isn't about you being arrogant or difficult. Nope. It might actually be a sign that you're operating on a different level of thinking, one that, frankly, can be tough for a lot of people to keep up with. So let's try to look at this whole experience in a new light. We're going to walk through 8 distinct signs, all backed by psychology, that suggest you might process information way more deeply than the average person. And the goal here? It's to see these things not as flaws, but as features. Let's see if any of these sound familiar to you. Okay, let's dive in. All right, we'll kick things off with the first 4 signs, starting with the big one, a trait that so many people write off as a negative: overthinking. So sign number 1 is overthinking. And what's so fascinating about this is the huge difference between how people see it and what's really going on in your head. What just feels like anxious worrying is actually, from a psychological view, your brain's intense need to connect everything. It has to see the whole, complete picture before it can land on an answer. There's actually a name for this. It's called hyperconnectivity. It means your mind just doesn't rest, not until it figures out how all the pieces fit together. Think of it like an engine that craves depths and hates simple surface-level answers. So, and this is the key part, it's not a bug, it's a feature of how your brain is wired. Okay, let's move on to sign number 2, which really builds on that first point. You're someone who notices patterns in behavior, in words that just fly over other people's heads. So while most people are just hearing the words being spoken, your mind is already 2 steps ahead, automatically analyzing the subtext, like why did they choose those specific words? What you're doing is exercising a form of high emotional intelligence. It's that ability to read between the lines, to pick up on all those unspoken motivations. But here's the thing, to other people who aren't catching those same subtleties, it can honestly be a little intimidating. And that's often why you might feel disconnected or misunderstood in those conversations. Sign number 3, you genuinely, truly enjoy being alone. Now, this gets mistaken all the time for disliking people, but that's not it at all. Studies actually show that for highly intelligent folks, being alone is how you recharge. Socializing can totally break a deep train of thought, and let's be honest, your own inner world is often way more interesting anyway. And that brings us to sign number 4, you question everything. You're that person who hears, "That's just how it's always been done," and your brain immediately fires back, "But why? Is there a better way?" Look, this isn't about being a rebel just for the sake of it. Your goal is real, genuine improvement. All right, so let's move on to the next set of 4 signs. These are all about curiosity, the way you communicate, and what you really value at your core. Sign number 5. Oh man, this is a big one. It's that constant struggle to find people who can match your level of curiosity. You know that feeling, right? You want to dive deep, talk about the universe, psychology, big ideas, but you find that most conversations just stay paddling around in the shallow end. And that mismatch, that's what leaves you feeling bored and, yeah, pretty misunderstood. Okay, next up, sign number 6. You think before you speak. Maybe, sometimes a little too much. While everyone else is just talking, you're over there running a lightning-fast analysis in your head, weighing consequences, figuring out outcomes, and choosing your words with surgical precision. The only problem? That super thoughtful process can easily be mistaken for shyness, or even arrogance. And then there's sign number 7. You are your own harshest critic. Because you're so good at analysis, you can't help but turn that powerful lens on yourself, and you see your own flaws with brutal clarity. Now, that can make confidence a real challenge, for sure, but it's also the exact same engine that drives your personal growth. This superpower has a name. It's called metacognition. It's literally the ability to think about your own thinking. It's what gives you that deep self-awareness, and it's an incredibly powerful tool for self-improvement, even if it feels like a heavy weight at times. And finally, we've got the 8th sign. For you, truth and authenticity are everything. They're way more important than popularity or getting everyone's approval. You would much rather be honest than just be liked. Now, this core principle, it can definitely make other people who just want social harmony feel a little uncomfortable. But for you, it's non-negotiable. It's fundamental to who you are. So, where does this all leave us? What's the big takeaway here? It's simple, really. Embrace your depth. These aren't signs that you're difficult or too much. They're signs of a deeply, beautifully engaged mind. So, let's just run through them one more time. You overthink, but with a purpose. That's hyperconnectivity. You notice hidden patterns. That's your emotional intelligence. You value solitude to recharge your batteries. You question norms to make things better, not just to be difficult. You crave deep conversations. You think carefully before you speak. You're highly self-aware thanks to metacognition. And you always, always prioritize truth over popularity. And that brings us to the most important point of all. If you saw yourself in these signs, I really want you to hear this. You are not too much. You just think deeper than most people. And that way of thinking, it's rare, it's valuable, and it's absolutely something to be protected. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. If these signs hit home for you, then the real question isn't what's wrong with me. It's how can I best harness this incredible way of thinking in my own life?